All right, let's chat healing and cloning. For the most part, I'm going to tackle a lot of this with the clone stamp tool in Lightroom, but there are cases where I can just know that a photo has way too many spots that I'm going to need to edit, that it just makes sense to pull it into Photoshop. Lightroom does a really good job, but it tends to slow down the program when you're constantly cloning out all these little dots, whereas Photoshop seems to be able to handle it really well. So I am using the spot healing brush tool, which you can access hitting the J key. I adjust the size of my spot using the left and right brackets on the keyboard. So you'll see me kind of going back and forth adjusting sizes, but I like to just go in here and just click away. I should time myself and figure out how quickly I can edit this sort of stuff in Lightroom versus Photoshop, because it is just so much faster here in Photoshop. So a few quick things to note. So I have this concrete backdrop, but it's not perfect. It's hand painted. You can see there's like a scratch here, and I can't really just, it doesn't make sense to clone this out like bit by bit. And so with this spot healing brush, it makes sense to just click and drag, and it's going to sample an area nearby. So I tend to just click and drag, click and move around. I just go wild, and I'm paying attention to what I'm doing to make sure that where it samples makes sense. Like if I sample something that's too close, or if I accidentally clip another object, it's going to look a little bit strange. And so I'm just paying really good attention while I'm doing this. But turn on some good music, click away. This is one of my favorite tools to use because it's just really satisfying to go through and remove all of these like distractions. This image is a great example of that balance between having it look messy and intentional versus messy and chaotic. And so I'm removing any of the specks that are not necessarily the ingredient. They're too far away. There's scratches and dents and things. And so keep that in mind. I'm not going to meticulously remove all of the little sesame seeds that are not in the pile, because that's part of the photo. So for me, anytime there's a chocolate smear or maybe a drip on my background from when I painted it and it's causing a distraction, anything that stands out to me. It's really important too, before you do this, to clean your screen, because you will drive yourself nuts trying to like clone out spots that are actually just your monitor dirty. That's just a little fun trick. Okay, I'm really happy with how this came out. I do have one paintbrush smear that I want to address using the patch tool. So the patch tool lets you grab a whole selection and then physically move it and choose where it takes a selection from in the photo. And so you can fine tune your results, Command D, to get it just how you want it. So I would use the patch tool for larger things, because I don't want to take my clone stamp tool and make it huge and then have it sample from another space nearby and mess it up. So the patch tool is what I would use to fix large areas. This image is really easy example because it's a flat lay, so I don't have to worry about certain parts of the image being out of focus and in focus and dealing with that. But this image turned out super great. Let me show you another example where I can show you a few more tools in action. So this is a picture of my multi-chrome rainbow gradient flat lay that I took for a previous class. I threw this together pretty quickly. I mean, obviously it took me time, but there's a few items in the frame that aren't quite straight. I ran out of a few objects. I'm really happy with how the image came together, but I think I can fine tune this photo to look just a little bit better. So the first thing I want to address that you cannot do in Lightroom is rotating an object. I wish you could. I would do that so often. So let me just zoom into this orange washi tape and show you what I mean. So I'm going to hit the L for lasso tool, and I'm going to select this little washi tape. I am going to right click, layer via copy. So this puts a copy on top, Command T for transform, and I'm going to rotate it to straighten it out. This is all good and well, and it works out really nicely. Well, I have a little bit of a mistake right there, but that is made so much easier with this new tool that I'm excited to show you. So undo, Command D for deselect. So the new tool that I want to show you is called the Content Aware Move tool. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to select this little tape that I want to move. I'm going to move him down just a little bit, and then it creates a transform box. I'm going to rotate this tape sideways till it's nice and parallel with the background and hit enter. And it is going to automatically, Command D, move my tape and fill in the background so that it looks beautiful. This blew my mind. I did not know this existed, and I have been playing with it for hours. It's been so fun. Let me show you. So right now it's set to move. So if I have these 3 little Legos, I can select them, and then I can grab them and I can move them over here. I can hit accept, and it literally shifts them across the frame, Command D. But now I'm like, oh, I really wish I could have had 2 of those. So what happens when you select it and you change it from move to extend? Well, now it's going to copy and paste them. So I line them up nicely, hit enter, Command D, and I have duplicated all of those cute little Legos, and it makes it look more filled in. So I could sit and go in here, I can grab each of these little items and straighten them out to look exactly how I wish I had done it in camera, and nobody will know. Nobody will know. It's gonna be amazing. So I just like to sit in here and select stuff, move stuff around, make it what I want. It's like the program knows what my brain wants to do, and it just does it, and I'm really excited about this tool. So anyway, I'm gonna be spending a long time playing with this feature. This is the content aware move tool. It looks like 2 little arrows, and it's just so awesome. Anyway, Command D. So it also works with larger objects. So let's say I wanted to adjust the angle of this pen. I'm gonna be really careful when I select it to make sure that I select its whole shadow, and it's gonna need a little bit of finessing, I can tell already, but we are just gonna move this. So we're gonna lift it up and move it over and rotate it so it's nice and parallel with the horizon, and we are gonna hit select. It filled where the pen used to be, Command D, and it didn't do a perfect job. I'm gonna come in here and use the spot heal brush to just fix those little spots a little bit. So that will require a little bit of finessing. A tool that you can use to help out with this, it's right underneath the spot healing brush. It's the healing brush tool. So for this one, it works a lot like the clone stamp, where you grab an edge and then it'll kind of copy that edge and it brushes it in. So it sort of does the job of both tools, if that makes sense. And so I like to just kind of work that in a little bit to try and get these spots to look a little bit better. And then I would actually go in and take the clone stamp tool, adjust my brush size, Alt, grab a source spot, and then fill that in slowly just to kind of get it as close as possible. And then go back with the healing brush tool, grab a selection, and then just kind of blend that in a little bit. You get the idea. You can basically just fix everything that you couldn't do in camera, or if you find out later that the photo that you took wasn't quite right, and you need to adjust it. There are limitations, obviously. So if I wanted to rotate this little object right here with the content aware move tool, I can grab it and I can rotate it all the way around and hit yeah. But what happens now is I have an inconsistent shadow. It's going the wrong direction. So now it looks like I edited it. We just want to make sure that it looks as true to life as possible. So keep that in mind. You can't rotate something all the way around unless you're willing to mitigate its shadows as well. So absolutely love that content aware move tool. In the next section, I'm going to show you how we would address a photo like this, but on a very bulk scale. And I'm excited to show you how it goes.